Coming up, a Native woman is tapped for the first class of the Obama Foundation's Leaders U.S.A. program. A leading organization for media changes its name, and the federal government could be on the verge of a shutdown. We learn more about the brewing battle over government funding. I am Aaliyah Chavez. Join us for those interviews plus headlines from the ICT Newscast.
This program is made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people.
Arizona State University welcomes 3,500 Indigenous students from Arizona and across the nation. It serves one of the largest populations of Indigenous students among U.S. colleges and universities. We created a sense of place for tribal nations to create futures of their own making through community outreach and research, taught by world-class Indigenous faculty where they see a reflection of themselves and their experiences. Find community at ASU.
Amadawa Hopa, thank you for joining us. As children get ready to start the new school year, it is important to remember an essential item that doesn't fit in a backpack. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, routine vaccinations for kindergarteners in the U.S. fell to 93% during the 2021 through the 2022 school year. That marks the second year in a row routine vaccination rates decreased. Vaccines can help prevent potentially fatal or severe illnesses, including for diseases like measles, mumps, polio, and tetanus. It is especially important for Indigenous children. Current data shows American Indian and Alaska Native kids have higher rates of hospitalizations. The CDC says there are several reasons for the country's declining numbers, including the possibility of misinformation around COVID-19 vaccines. A Mayo Clinic pediatric physician says knowing the facts and taking action are critical to keeping children healthy.
One of the specific vaccines that we've seen lower rates of is the MMR vaccine, or the measles, mumps, rubella vaccine. This is a really important vaccine, especially the measles component, because we know once we drop below 95% protection in our population, it's kind of when we're at the highest risk of seeing larger outbreaks of measles occur. That's why it's really important, especially when kids are entering school, to make sure that they're up to date with all of their vaccines. Many kids have fallen behind in the last couple of years with the COVID-19 pandemic.
A legendary Native American musician is deciding to retire after an incredible career. Award-winning singer and songwriter Buffy St. Marie of the Piapot Cree Nation announced she is retiring from live performances. The announcement cited a combination of contributing factors, including health concerns and physical challenges for the 82-year-old. Her award-winning music addresses issues like the environment, Indigenous truth, and fighting corruption. St. Marie's achievements include an Oscar and a Golden Globe Award in 1983 for co-writing the hit song Up Where We Belong from the film An Officer and a Gentleman. The music legend and rights advocate also wrote and performs the ICT Newscast opening track titled You've Got to Run, Spirit of the Wind. We turn now to sad news about another iconic Indigenous musician. Guitarist, songwriter, and singer Robbie Robertson died last week after a long battle with cancer. The 80-year-old Mohawk and Cayuga descendant was famous for leading the musical group The Band and for his work scoring films. While working with the group, he wrote and performed songs such as The Wait and It Makes No Difference. Most recently, Robertson produced the music for the film Killers of the Flower Moon. Before that, he had worked with the director Martin Scorsese for nearly 55 years. In a statement, Robertson's family is requesting that instead of flowers, donations be made to the Six Nations of Grand River to support a new cultural center. Australia's language loss rate is one of the fastest in the world. Only 40 out of 250 original Indigenous languages are still being spoken in the country. But in a small rural Queensland town, the local Waka Waka language is being revived and taught to school children. ICT's Mackenzie Allen Charmley has this report.
Nara, young man. Nara. In the local Waka Waka dialect, that means good morning, and in this primary school class, year 3 and 4 students are learning the traditional Indigenous language with their teacher.
I've always had a strong connection to my culture, especially dancing, singing.
In a Queensland first, Waka Waka citizen Corey Apple's cultural background and experience allow him to teach without a university degree.
It's quite historic for our state and our education system.
Eidsvold is a town located northwest of Brisbane. Many of its residents are Indigenous, and they say Apo's teaching is crucial to the preservation of local cultural history like the Waka Waka language.
With culture comes respect, comes understanding.
And it's not just the students in this school who will benefit from education provided by Apo. He's about to teach in other schools in the area.
So he's going to create another world. So it's all new. It's going to be different.
As of last year, Australia's education department says Indigenous languages are being taught in 44 state schools in collaboration with traditional owners. And there are more than 100 other schools that are scheduled to start teaching an Aboriginal or Torres Strait language.
I hope there's heaps of languages that revive through schools eventually. My big vision is that we can use it in the street, at footy games, at events.
Building a new generation of traditional language speakers.
And those are the headlines for the ICT Newscast. A female leader has been picked as an Obama leader by the former president's Obama Foundation. Tasha Friday of the Wichita and affiliated tribes will join the first leadership class of changemakers who are values-driven. The leaders will work together to strengthen democratic institutions in the U.S. and each receive one-on-one support to tackle pressing issues. ICT's Stuart Huntington caught up with Friday on the day the class was announced. She spoke from her home on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation.
Tasha, thank you for joining us today.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
First, I have to say congratulations on this honor from Obama World.
Right. So exciting and amazing to be included in this inaugural cohort as one of the representatives from Indian country. I can't think of a bigger blessing.
Were you surprised when you got the word?
So I was definitely shocked. I can't say that I was surprised. I did, put my name in the hat for being selected, but I really thought it was kind of slim to none. The United States is a huge place, and I've tried to do really good work in my career. And just really glad that they were able to see that and give me this amazing opportunity.
Are you looking forward to one particular thing when you jump into this work with your cohort?
Sure. So we've already kind of jumped in. We've had a couple of meetings. Really excited to learn and be thought partners with other leaders throughout the United States. It's really a great community so far, and excited to build those relationships. I think a lot of us are doing amazing things, and there are so many intersections and innovative ways in which people are approaching challenges. So I'm excited to really just have a brainstorming session for the next 6 months and see what we can do to change the world.
Oh, that's fantastic. You're now on the Pine Ridge Reservation in South Dakota. Tell us a little bit about your work there.
Sure. So I am the National Director of Tribal Programs for Friends of the Children, where we are a youth mentoring program where we have paid professional mentors starting ages 4 to 5 all the way through high school. So we walk alongside those youth for 12 years plus, no matter what. My role in national is really elevated here within South Dakota because this is the site of our first Native American culturally specific site, the Friends of the Children Hesapa. So we have a location in Rapid City and one here on the reservation where I live called the Oglala Lakota Nation site. And so this is the first time Friends of the Children in its 30-year history has really intentionally worked within Indigenous communities using our cultural identity as the foundation of the model.
And I understand that a cornerstone of the model is an intergenerational approach.
Absolutely. So I love that you call it an intergenerational approach. A lot of people call it a two-gen approach, but as you know, within Indigenous families, we're multi-generational. Yeah, so it's really great. So not only are we there to support young people both inside and outside the classroom, but we also support their families. And one thing that we're doing within South Dakota and Indian country, where we're serving both rurally and within urban Indian centers, is really trying to incorporate that cultural identity as a protective factor, uplifting families by reconstituting extended kinship systems, and really just bringing us back to who we are, which strengthens our families.
Now, I know you said that you're on the Pine Ridge Reservation, but your work is national. So you're working in Indigenous communities across the country?
Yes, all over Indian country. It's really exciting because a lot of people haven't heard of Friends of the Children. I have a background in tribal youth programs and juvenile healing to wellness courts. So I've had the opportunity to see this type of work across Indian country, kind of see what works and what doesn't. I'm really excited about what this model is going to bring. And tribes and tribal communities are really excited as well. We currently have a couple of chapters in Montana. We're expanding to the Flathead Reservation. And so just super excited about this, and also very intentional in my work because I have a very traditional background and upbringing. So, really working to authentically work in Indian country as good relatives, even going back to getting tribal resolutions of support and honoring our sovereignty when we're asking to come into community and have access to our greatest resource, which are the future generations.
You mentioned that you went to law school. You're not practicing law.
I am not. Actually, haven't practiced since I got out of law school. I worked within juvenile healing to wellness courts under the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention, and really just determined that youth work is my heart work. And so any way that I can give back to tribal communities, helping our next generations of leaders and helping to heal our youth and families, that has been my heart work. Born and raised in Oklahoma, that's where I went to law school. There are 39 tribes there, federally recognized tribes, and it's the traditional homelands of my people, the Gittikidish or the Wichita and affiliated tribes. And so have had the opportunity to be surrounded by tribes and tribal culture my entire life. And it's just who I am and what guides my work.
Okay, when you got word that you were part of this cohort, did your aunties call you up?
So this has been under wraps for quite some time, but today is the day and everyone is congratulating me and sending me messages. It's really very encouraging. A lot of times when we do what I like to call service work, we're in the trenches, moccasins on the ground, as it were. And we don't do it for the notoriety, or no one notices necessarily the things that we're doing. And so it's a good feeling to know that people appreciate the efforts that we're all making in our communities.
Okay, and the last question is, are you going to get to meet the ex-president and first lady?
I'm not sure about that, but I'm really excited to meet my cohort in person. And so most of our time together is virtually, but they are already an outstanding group of people. So excited to be in community with them.
Ms. Friday, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you again for having me. And let's see what change we can make.
Last week, members of the Native American Journalists Association voted to change their name to the Indigenous Journalists Association. Here to talk more about this is ICT's editor, Jordan Bennett-Begay. Welcome back, Jordan.
Hi, thanks for having me.
First off, congratulations on being re-elected to the IJA Board of Directors. Give us a brief history about how the organization has evolved over the years.
Sure, and IJA is almost as old as ICT, which is really funny how that came to be. The organization was founded in 1983 by more than 24 Indigenous journalists, from Canada and from the States, and they wanted to see and have a group that would represent them and who would advocate for them, and also advocate for Native representation in mainstream media and for tribal media too, because of the 574 federally recognized tribes, only 5 tribes have free press laws in their nations. Well, and the organization, this isn't the first name change for the organization. It was founded as the Native American Press Association. And actually, when our ICT editor-at-large, Mark Trahan, was the president, they pushed for a name change back then, which is the Native American Journalists Association. So this wasn't the first time the name change has happened.
And based on what you've heard, what was one of the main pushes for the organization to decide to change its name?
It came from our membership and also our board. We wanted a name to be more inclusive of communities that we cover and that we wanted journalists to cover, because we wanted young people to cover their communities up in Canada, and a lot of them don't refer to themselves as Native American. They call themselves First Nations, Inuit, Métis, and we wanted a name to be more inclusive of that. And we also planned to expand internationally so we can connect to, the Sami people in Europe and also the Maori down under. And we just wanted to choose a name that was more inclusive and to, find a way for all of us to come together and support each other and to learn from one another.
As the organization expands globally, what are your hopes for the future of Indigenous journalism?
Oh, it's a big question. I really hope, like I just said previously, I really hope this allows us to connect with one another. I know in this last conference, a lot of us have learned from our relatives north of the medicine line. I think we've seen in the past few years how we are, as Indigenous people and as Indigenous journalists, tackling very similar issues, such as missing and murdered relatives, or climate crisis, or the residential schools and the boarding schools here in the States. So they're very, we're very covering issues that are very parallel to one another, and we can learn a lot from that. And I know, just anecdotally, I've seen our communities here in the States be inspired by the Truth and Reconciliation initiatives that have been going on in Canada, and that has pushed a lot of communities here in the States to, create their own initiatives going forward.
In 1993, the conference was actually held in Kamloops, British Columbia. So this was the second time that this gathering was held in Canada. This time around, tell us what the significance was of holding it in Canada and across the medicine line.
I think it was, just a great time to learn from them, and again, from all the issues that we've been covering that's been happening lately. It was very much time to do it, and especially with the name change, and we wanted to build a bridge again.
And just very quickly here, describe the atmosphere of the conference this year. I will say that one of my favorite parts was seeing everyone's beautiful jewelry and everyone's ribbon skirts.
Oh yeah, I definitely look at the fashion of everyone when they come in, and I've always heard from other people that IJA is the conference they look forward to because it's unlike any other conferences. People are laughing, they're embracing, they're hugging, asking with permission, of course. It's just very much a union-like time, and people learning from each other and networking. We're going to panels and learning how everyone covered certain issues. It's just very rejuvenating after you come back from a conference like that.
Well, Jordan Bennett-Begay, thank you so much. House Republicans could be at the center of a government shutdown in about 6 weeks if they don't work out a plan. The U.S. House is in its August recess, making it more challenging to work out a path to pass important government spending bills by the September 31st deadline. Here to talk more about this is ICT regular contributor John Tsuda. Hi, John. Welcome back.
Hi. Thanks for having me again.
One of the Indigenous members of Congress, Josh Brackeen from Oklahoma's 2nd District, has been outspoken about reining in government spending. Can you tell us more about his perspective and others who are part of the Freedom Caucus?
Well, I think it's a challenge to say a joint perspective. I think many of these members have their own particular views. They do generally focus around concerns about things like the size of the federal budget, the size of the federal deficit, and the overall debt the United States has. I think you have to acknowledge it, that from an economic perspective, that these are concerns. And for Indian country, as we know, oftentimes in the history of this, we have been the first ones whose budgets have been cut when there were concerns about, economics, fiscal issues. And so I do think it's something that tribes need to keep an eye out for. We're reaching this point where, the debt of the United States overall is approaching what the annual economic output of the country is for a year. Those are significant numbers. So these guys are focused around sort of that general idea. But part of what makes it difficult, I think, for congressional leaders and for Republican leaders in the House is they all have different ideas about how they want to go about this. So they are having to have these individual conversations with each of them. As we know, the Republican control of the House is very narrow, and so they can't afford to lose very many members from their caucus on votes. And so these are very often very individual one-on-one conversations that the Republican leadership in the House is having with these guys. It is a challenge, and I hope they're able to spend this time in August working through these.
Representative Tom Cole is the vice chair of the Appropriations Committee. How do you think that his experience in Congress could help navigate this issue?
So Tom is a unique individual. Not only is he a tribal member and obviously now at this point a long-standing senior member of the House Republican caucus and in the House in general. And Tom has some unique gifts. He's a great communicator. And I would like to say that I'm a fellow Okie along with Mr. Cole. That coming from a more rural conservative background, learning to navigate between that sort of background and then interacting with your friends from other parts of the country, particularly urban areas. It's something that you can learn, but also something that is a little bit of a gift, I think, that Mr. Cole has. So he's very effective at that. And one of the reasons that he is not only the vice chair of the Appropriations Committee, but he's also the chair of the Rules Committee. And a little bit of background on process, but the Rules Committee in the House is the one that sets the stage for all legislation in the House to go to the floor. They set the rules on how it's going to be debated, they can even set rules on how many amendments. And so that's a signal of how much trust that the House leadership, Republican House leadership, has in Mr. Cole. Again, Tom is a friend, a great friend of Oklahomans in general, and I think there probably couldn't be anybody better, not just from Indian country's perspective, but anybody better in the Republican caucus to try to handle those difficult discussions.
John, how do you think a government shutdown or even a partial government shutdown could impact federal agencies like the Indian Health Service or, say, the Department of the Interior or the Bureau of Indian Affairs?
Well, so it doesn't have as much of an immediate impact on either the Indian Health Service or the Bureau of Indian Education because we know they now have advanced funding. And one of the reasons that tribal leaders wanted to try to secure that, it's an unusual funding process. Not very many federal agencies, have that benefit of that. So that does insulate them a little bit from it. The Bureau of Indian Affairs, it does not have that benefit, and it's a challenge, particularly for the direct service tribes. When the BIA provides direct services to them, and then they get these funds in these short-term supplementals or short-term extensions of appropriations without having a full year, it becomes very difficult to manage the budgets. It becomes very difficult to know. In the past, we've had these extended, budget breaks. They've had to furlough employees. And when you come to particularly the human services side of what the BIA provides for some of the tribes, and remember, these are in some of the poorest areas of the country, it becomes a big challenge for the BIA to manage that.
What else are you keeping your eye on right now, John?
Well, to stay on appropriations, I think it's unfortunate timing. So while we're having this difficult discussion, and it's not just the House, the Senate is having their own difficult discussions about budgets and appropriations, and they're going to be a long ways apart from the House. So that's all trying to happen now. And then we've just received from the president a supplemental appropriations request, $40+ billion. When I say unfortunate timing, what I mean is, that then becomes a priority for the president over the annual appropriations. That $40 billion, which is, really in federal terms a small request, but that then can sideline the debates and the discussion on the larger annual appropriations bills. And, I hope that doesn't happen. But, with the many views, I'll be generous here and say with the many different views that members of Congress have about the federal budget and appropriations, even something smaller like this supplemental can sideline the larger discussions as they fight over that small supplemental. And there are pieces in there that I know are important, have to do with wildland fire, very important in Indian country, of course. But there's a lot of stuff having to do with the Ukrainian war. And man, there's a lot of debate over that. Not everybody supports it.
Well, ICT regular contributor John Tasuda, thank you as always.
Thanks again for having me.
And that's a slice of our Indigenous world. For all the latest, visit ictnews.org. From all of us in the newsroom, stay safe, my relatives.
This program is made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people.